And I'm back with you again today to share how I planned in my mini happy planner. There is a look at last week. I absolutely loved that color scheme. It was so fun and super different than pretty much anything else out there, so I was really excited to use it. And therefore, I decided I wanted to kind of follow in the same color pattern this week. So I took those colors from last week and then I pulled out this really old stamp set from Scraptastic Club to use as my decor this week. So that's right, I'm going to only be stamping this week. I don't know that I've ever done that in the mini happy planner, but I'm really excited about it. As you can see, I'm pulling out the biggest of the blooms, and I am using that royal blue ink pad by VersaColor to get started right there in the upper right hand corner of Monday. Now I'm going to be doing a lot of floral stamping, and it's going to be very different in terms of there'll be lots of decoration this week thanks to all the stamping. However, I don't think it takes anything away from the functionality, and I think that is partially because of the nature of this, which is stamping. Now, as you can see, I inked that one up with the VersaFine, it's red, and I also pulled out a piece of scratch paper to place underneath so that I could let the stamp hang off the edge without getting my desktop all inked up. Now I'm adding the leaves with the green VersaColor ink pad, and VersaColor and VersaFine are both pigment inks. I highly recommend using a pigment ink in your planner. You won't have any bleed through. You could have some light shadowing depending on the ink itself, how hard you press, and the color of the ink, but it really shouldn't be too much of a problem. I only ever have it when I use the black VersaFine, and that's really super faint, so I don't think that shadowing is really that big of an issue. I'm looking through the Happy Planner teacher sticker book to see if I can find a sticker that says no school. I don't find one, and so I decided that I'm going to have to just write that myself. However, before I do that, I'm going to add my activities. So I'm using that round stamp from Sweet Stamp Shop. It is from the Basic Tabs stamp set. You can still get that one in the shop. And then I'm also pulling out a baseball stamp from Play Ball. This one might be retired, unfortunately. And I'm going to use that along with that tab. Now, as you can see, that's how I store my Sweet Stamp Shop 2x6 stamp pads, or stamp sets, excuse me. I like to have them, and they're really versatile, and it's easy to flip through in that way. Now, like I said already, this is black VersaFine, and I'm just going to use my Papermate Flare pen to fill in the practice right there in that circle. Now, I pulled out my Tombow brush pen, and I'm just writing no school since I didn't have a sticker for that. I didn't really want to hunt for one. I'm sure I could have probably found one in my stash, but I really did want to stick to stamping this week, so just adding that with my pen was probably significantly easier. Now, since I have finished up Monday, I'm going to add the next bit of decorative stamping, and I'm going to pull that right on over to the left-hand side. Now right there, I'm sharing with you another way to clean off your ink pads. I have a scratch paper there, and so you can just stamp the excess off on the scratch paper until it no longer stamps that color. So as you can see there, it just takes a few times and then it's cleaned off. Yes, it'll still be stained the color that you previously used, but that doesn't impact it at all, as you can see, because we already stamped off all of the excess ink. Now I have decided to stamp right here in the middle on the left hand side because I want to make sure that the overall design of this is very good and that I have the visual triangle to work with. So therefore that means that I'm going to vary and alternate where I add my decorative stamping. Now I'm sticking with the same color scheme. I'm using the red, the blue, the green, and then also I've added in the turquoise as well, which I had decided to do at the beginning when I pulled out the red and the blue and the green, which came from the inspiration from last week's colors. Now, what I will say is that I wanted to vary the clusters. I didn't want them to all look exactly the same, so as you can see, that middle one is a little bit different, and also I used some smaller blooms and stems as well. Now for Tuesday, I'm going to use this smaller box from the more tabs, or maybe it's from basic tabs. I don't remember. I'm so sorry. I think it's from basic tabs. And just add my activities and events right there in those two. And I've switched it up and I've pulled out a red oh my gosh, a red Papermate Flare pen just to keep in line with the overall theme of this particular layout. And I had one more activity and I didn't have room to stamp another thing, so I just wrote it underneath. It's probably not the prettiest, but it gets the job done and it works perfectly fine. So now what I need to do is I need to kind of examine what stamps I have, what they look like, what the overall shape is, because I want to add the decorative element at the bottom that will tie all three little places together. So I'm inking up the green and the stems, although I don't ink up the entire stem because I want to use it as a stem for the flowers as opposed to just like a big leaf hanging off like I did at the top. So as you can see, I did not ink the entire stem. I left that top piece off, and now I'm going to add little flower heads to the top of that, first using that larger, more whimsical turquoise one, and then I will check to make sure that this smaller one works, and then I'll ink it up and add it as well. I really love this color scheme. It's super fun, but it's as ordinary as could possibly be. It really sort of lends itself to that primary color thing. The turquoise throws that off a tiny bit. It just is still plain enough that it really doesn't add anything that's over the top at all, and I'm just really a big, huge fan. Now I'm adding that large box from the basic tab set, and then I'm going to use this tiny little star stamp with the red VersaFine and just a couple of little bullet points to write my activities right there. Now I wanted to use the big block because I love the way that it sort of gives definition and it really stands out, and it's varied from the other two that I've already used, and then in addition really stands out from the florals that I've stamped all over the page. Now again, I'm changing up my pen to a turquoise Papermate Flare. I just really wanted to keep in line with the different color schemes and the variedness, so that was why I chose that one there. Now this is the Mambi roller stamp. It's got that really cute arrow. I like the shape and I like using it as a divider and creating two different spots. However, I decided to just write that activity on its side just for something a little bit different. It doesn't have to be that everything is the same each week. You can try different techniques, and I actually really like that a lot. So now again on Thursday I have a couple of different activities, and so I'm going to go ahead and use the bullet stamp that I used in Wednesday with the red VersaFine and just write my activities down next to the bullets. The bullet points are a great way to notate activities and events when you have several of them, and so something larger like those other ones that I already used won't fit. And I do have this a couple of times a week where I have so many things and really not enough room to go crazy with making it beautiful or dressing it up. So just making it functional yet still cute at the same time is really the way that I have to go. Now I'm inking up the blue. I love that royal blue color with sort of that crazier flower stamp. And then I'm also going to pull out another one of the florals and then use the turquoise ink to match that right next to it. Now here my scratch paper, sorry, I totally blanked on that. My scratch paper will come in handy again because I want to have a flower sit right up on the edge, right there in between those two. And so I'm going to first stamp out the stem or the greenery, if you will, for those flowers, and also then add another one as well, just to have some balance and really have it a bigger cluster of florals. But like I said, I want to still add that flower that will hang over the edge, if you will, of the paper. So that's where the scratch paper comes in handy. It keeps my desktop clean, and I'm going to use that VersaFine ink. I love the coverage that it provides, so see there? So I can still have it right up to the edge, but I didn't get my desktop messy or anything like that. The extra just hung over on the paper. Now because of the tininess of that flower that I used it again down on the center right hand side so that I could have that cohesiveness between the two clusters of flowers, because as you know, I like to change them up. I don't want them to be the same cluster over and over again. But to be perfectly honest, I'm really enjoying that red with that circle. It's super cute. Now I'm using the greenery again to hang down. I love the way that this really is just reminiscent of a big bouquet of flowers, and I love the way that it's kind of looking and they all fit together and how the colors are just perfect together. Now again, pulling in that big blue flower head with the royal blue VersaColor ink pad. And I think I already told you this, but these are pigment ink pads. I just want to make that abundantly clear because I know people have questions what kind of ink to use, and I think your safest bet is pigment ink. Now, does that mean that you can't use dye? No, not at all. People have success with that, but I think that it depends so much on the paper they're using, how heavy they press, what brand of ink they're using. So that's why I just recommend, if you're going to go buy inks, make sure that you're buying pigment ink just so that you can be safe. But if you already have dye ink and it works for you, then go for it. No problem at all there. Now I'm adding a couple of different leaves this time instead of those big greenery pieces down for my bottom cluster, and I really wanted to kind of go all out at the very bottom. I really wanted to make it bold and grand in that note section just so it would have that super decorative flair. Now for Saturday I have quite a few activities, so I need to make sure that I can get them all down on the paper, and so I've just used that little bullet point stamp like I've already talked about, and then I'm also inking up that big block to place right next to it so that I can fit the rest of my activities in that box. Now again, pulling out that turquoise Papermate Flare pen, it has a really great color. It coordinates well with the turquoise ink, the VersaColor that I've already used, and it just provides a little bit of contrast for the black ink that I'm using inside the black box, and so it just makes it stand out a little bit more. And I like the fun that it provides in the way that it works well with the red little bullet points also. Now I'm going to lastly ink up this stamp for Sunday, and then that's it. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching my video. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, please leave me a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, leave a comment in the box below, and I will do my very best to get back to you. Thank you so much, and make it a great day.